What would you do if your online store converted 36% more shoppers? You could take 36% more vacation.
Another pina colada? Yes, please.
Open a new retail location with 36% more square feet.
Fantastic.
Hire 36% more help.
You're hired and you're hired.
Shopify has the world's best converting checkout, up to 36% better than other e-commerce platforms. What you do with those extra sales is up to you. Switch to Shopify today at shopify.com/listen and get a $1 trial. Shopify.com/listen.
When the moments in your life are too important to miss, you can trust O'Reilly Auto Parts to keep you and your plans on the road. Our professional parts people can test your vehicle's battery and even give it a charge if needed. In most cases, we can install your new battery for free. It's just one of the many services we provide at O'Reilly Auto Parts to ensure life's best moments don't find you stranded.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I will always have a complicated relationship with this game, but people evolve. So do sports. Do not make me regret this. Do not make me devolve back to that guy that so many clones wish that I still was. And do not embarrass the entire country. Now, I can go back. I can get there fast. Lose tonight, and you got a real problem. Do not blow it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast.
You've been warned.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
It is 12:34. Welcome back in. We are just a couple weeks away from SEC football media days. Obviously, a lot of conversation about this Auburn football team. We'll get into a little bit about the recruiting and the hot streak that Alex Golesh and his staff has been on. But let's bring in Nathan King from Auburn Undercover, who joins us now. Nathan, I hope the summer has gone well for you, buddy.
It has been great. Hope you guys are doing well.
We are doing fantastic. Getting ready for SEC football media days, just less than 2 weeks away. But one thing is for sure, unfortunately for you, you have covered a lot of different head coaches and a lot of changes on the Plains over the course of the last few years. But if you could compare and contrast, let's just take from Hugh Freeze when he started on the Plains and Alex Golesh and his staff, kind of compare and contrast those two starts for these two staffs.
Yeah, I mean, the fantastic question, because that's really what you look at. I mean, I don't remember properly where Freeze had Auburn at this point heading into his first season, but obviously they did a really good job getting a good recruiting class that first time around and their second recruiting class as well. So it doesn't really matter when you do it as long as you finish, around the top 10, which obviously Freeze got Auburn to do those first couple years. I mean, the big difference is just the style of coach that you've hired, right? I mean, Freeze, that was his strength. Everybody knew that he recruited really well at Ole Miss. The biggest question was it going to translate to modern SEC success? Like, this guy won in the SEC a decade ago. Does that mean his offense can still work in the 2020s? Obviously, the answer to that question was no. On the other hand, you've got a guy in Alex Golesh to where I think if you ask a lot of Auburn fans, it feels like maybe he's a bit ahead of schedule in terms of his recruiting prowess right now. But not necessarily regarded as an elite recruiter like Hugh Freeze was. Instead, for Golesh, the draw for him was, hey, he's a young coach who's got a system that's worked the last few years. He's got an exciting offense. Maybe he can turn Auburn into a competent offense, which obviously they haven't been in quite some time. So you're sort of contrasting the different styles of coaching with those guys. I think Freeze was very expected, what he did on the recruiting trail early on for Auburn. Alex Golesh, maybe a bit unexpected, maybe a bit unexpected for him to have the number 8 recruiting class in the country right now. I think maybe you thought that was something that was going to take a bit longer. At the same time, we'll see where we are in December, right? It's all that matters is what happens come signing day. But right now the Tigers are in a good position right there, and it gives them a bit of a off the field momentum boost, because obviously it's a dead period all the way up until the season, so they can kind of carry that recruiting momentum all the way up until media days and the start of fall camp.
And you've covered different coaches in your career and there at Auburn, Nathan, but Alex Golesh, can you sense a quiet confidence about him, about maybe the roster that he knows that he has heading into his first season? Any tells there that you've been able to pick up on?
Yeah, I think, and this really speaks more to just who Golesh is as a coach overall. He's got a blend of confidence in what he's done, right? Confidence in his system and what he's done so far as a coach in his career. That's about half of it. And the other half is, I think he's kind of got this humility to him. He's got a humble approach right now. He would be the first to say, I don't know everything about being a head coach. I've only been a head coach for a few years. I don't know everything about being in the SEC. I was only in the SEC for a couple years. And so I think that's the thing with him is sort of blending those two things. He is a confident guy. Like he sort of exudes that. You can tell from conversations with him and knowing who he is in that Auburn building. But, in terms of a quiet confidence, I think that's probably the right way to put it. More just a quiet, comfortability with this team is probably what they're feeling in that Auburn building, because beyond what they have on the roster, like having your 4-year starting quarterback in Byron Brown, that helps. That makes you feel more confident and comfortable. But having your play caller, that doesn't happen very often in college sports. Having a 4-year play caller in Joel Gordon, who's going to be with the same quarterback for 4 years, and then obviously having the same head coach mixed in there's just a lot of comfort and a lot of familiarity. And so I know we've talked about it many times this offseason, but all those things sort of come together to, if you're Auburn, hopefully speed up the year one process, maybe create less of a year zero, less of a transition period. I don't know how many games Auburn is going to win this season, but I do think you asked about Golish and the coaching staff. I do think within that building there is a confidence level of, hey, we know what we're doing. Like, we'll see how it works. We'll see how these guys translate to the SEC. We'll see how the schedule works out. We'll see how they perform in the games. But, there is confidence in that building that those players know how to play in this system. They know what they're doing. They know this coaching staff. They know what they're supposed to be doing, on a play-to-play basis. And so I don't think you necessarily had that early on under Hugh Freeze. It was very apparent in his first season. It only took that second game at Cal to realize, this offense has no idea what it is. And that's why, Golish talks so much about the word identity. That's going to be big for them this season.
Do you think it's a fair criticism for those? I do radio shows around the Southeastern Conference, and they always point to the fact that, yes, there's 13 players that followed Golish to Auburn, but will that translate to the Southeastern Conference? And I always want to point out, well, Auburn's not the only school that gets transfer portal kids.
Trinidad Chambliss was
exactly
at Ferris State.
Exactly. That's my point. So my question to you, Nathan, is that a fair criticism to say that Auburn may not be that good this year because these guys have not been in the trenches of the Southeastern Conference?
It's a fair question, and I think it's the number one question you have to point to, because other than that, what are you going to say about this Alex Golish offense? If you look at it at face value at USF, it was really good. Byron Brown is one of only 12 players in the history of college football to throw for 3,000 yards and rush for another 1,000. He was really, really good last year. So what is the criticism or critique that you're going to wonder about? It's just, will it work in the SEC? Will it work, at Auburn? I think if Alex Golish had stayed at USF, let's say, the thought experiment of he keeps all these players, he keeps Byron Brown for another season, what would you be saying about USF? You'd be talking about them as a G5 playoff contender, right? You'd be saying, well, they've got all these pieces and they've got Golish again, they got Byron Brown again. They're maybe a favorite to make the playoff as a team out of the American Conference. Now you sort of shift those expectations and shift the conversation of, how good can they be against SEC competition? I think it's a very fair, maybe not criticism, but, question mark about this team this season. And most of it pertains to the offense. 11 of those 13 guys come over from USF are on the offensive side of the ball. I don't really have that many questions about this Auburn defense. I do personnel wise, but DJ Durkin has got them to finish in the top 20 of SP Plus in each of the last 2 seasons. He's earned the benefit of the doubt. We know he's really good as a defensive coordinator. They'll figure it out on that side of the ball. So it's all about just how good Byron Brown can be. But I do think the big thing, and you see it across the sport nowadays with Eric Morris is doing it at Oklahoma State. Guys are following their former coach. It happens all the time. Of course, the gold standard is Kurt Cignetti when he came over from JMU. But I do think it raises the floor for this offense. I really cannot see a reality where they just feel incompetent and feel out of sorts. Again, the point of your question, they may be overmatched. They may not quite have the personnel just yet to be really good in year one, but are they going to feel clunky and out of sorts and they don't know what they're doing? That's where I would be really surprised if we're talking about that when it comes to this offense.
Nathan King, Auburn Undercover, joining us here on 3-Man Front on the Higginbotham Hotline. You talked about the defensive side of the ball, and personnel would be your only questions. I want to start up front on the defensive line. You got transfers coming in. You got younger guys that have been in the system like your Jordan Crawfords. How does that look up front this year compared to what we saw last year from DJ Durkin in that group?
Yeah, truthfully, if you just look at it face value, they've lost 4 starters along the defensive line. Keldrick Falk and Kieron Crawford on the edges, defensive end and edge rusher, both NFL draft picks. Bobby Jamison-Travis was their nose tackle. He was an underrated player for them last year, and then you saw that because he was a 6th-round pick in the NFL draft. And then their starter at 3-tech, defensive tackle Malik Blockton, makes a surprising decision after his older brother played at Auburn, and he started at Auburn for 2 years, makes the surprising decision to transfer to LSU. So it's a pretty full-scale rebuild there up front. The main thing with those guys is you've got a lot of interesting pieces. You've got a lot of guys that have done it at other places. You got Deshaun Womack, who was a 5-star recruit at LSU, played a lot last season, was pretty good at Ole Miss. You've got Jared Smith, was a 5-star recruit. He's going to be the Keyron Crawford replacement there. At edge rusher, you mentioned Jordan Crawford. How about Malik Autry, another former 5-star recruit there at defensive tackle? Cody Sigler is an Arkansas State transfer who was just nuts last season with how well he produced there.
How did he look in the spring to you, Nathan, the Sigler kid?
Sigler was great. He was one of their most consistent players along the defensive line. So everything I just talked about is on paper very good. None of those guys have done it in an orange and blue jersey. Not a single person I just mentioned has proven much of anything wearing an Auburn jersey. So that is the biggest question. Can all of it translate? Can it all come together? I think you're helped by the fact you have an All-American linebacker in Xavier Atkins. Like, he can kind of help to take that load off. They're definitely going to lean on the linebackers this season. They're definitely going to lean on them, as opposed to last year it was the defensive line. And then Xavier Atkins kind of came on late in the season. But yeah, you're always wondering about the trenches. I have an equal number of question marks about the offensive line as well. Maybe the way that they play on offense can kind of mitigate that. Maybe the strengths of this defense can kind of mitigate their defensive line. But I do think they've got a lot of potential, but they've really got to show it to me, because there's not a lot of guys on that D-line who have proven much.
All right, Nathan. So last year, as we were at this point in time during the year leading up to the SEC football media days, we talked about, okay, it's going to be interesting because the Oklahoma week, that Oklahoma game in Norman, that's going to be kind of the test pattern to see if this Auburn football team is going to be what we think it may be. This year, it's kind of a week earlier. It's the Florida game as they come to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Do you agree that that's going to be the first litmus test to see what the potential ceiling could be for this team? Because if you knock off Florida at home, and looking at the schedule with Vanderbilt, and then heck, the thinking about Tennessee is possibly doable. How good could this football team be if they get that win at home against the Florida Gators?
Yeah, it's a big one. It's the really big game early on in the season. Getting a night game at Jordan-Hare Stadium as well for Florida was really, really big. Of course, there's going to be a lot of buildup because John Sumrall and Alex Golesh, we'll be watching their careers together, right? Like, they'll kind of be tied together because obviously Sumrall was so close to taking the Auburn job. But I agree that it'll be the first real look at just how good Auburn can be, because, and I could be completely wrong about this, I don't think Baylor's very good. DJ Lagway can maybe do some things with them on offense, but they are going to be so god-awful on defense, I don't think it's going to matter. Like, I really don't. I've got Auburn by 2 touchdowns in that game, and so I think, Florida's going to be the first real test for them. And then Vandy the next week, like you mentioned, if they beat Florida, you've got a real opportunity to start 4-0. You really do. And again, I could be wrong about Baylor. We're still a long way away, and we'll see how that game goes. But the schedule really lines up early on in the season for you to build some momentum. I would caution people. I was talking last week on CBS Sports about a potential trap game, and everybody looks at Mississippi State late in the year, and I would agree that sort of fits the bill of a classic trap game. People got to remember Vanderbilt has built themselves into a very good program. Like, Clark Lee is still there. He didn't go to Penn State. He didn't go to Auburn. Like, he is still a really, really good head coach in the SEC. I know they don't have Diego Pavia anymore, but there's no reason to believe that Auburn is a better program than Vanderbilt this year. Like, our recent history tells us otherwise, just because the game is going to be in Auburn. So that'll be an interesting one the week after Florida. But yeah, definitely night game, 6 o'clock, ESPN, primetime, under the lights, John Sumrall coming to town. First real opportunity. Also playing an old Auburn rival in Florida. It's going to feel good, for people who, watched this team back in the 90s and, when that was a prominent rival for them. And so definitely the biggest game early on in the season, and probably a game where we're going to learn a lot, because that Florida defense probably pretty solid. We'll learn a lot about what Auburn can be as an offense.
What a commentary that would be on Auburn football if Alex Golesh gets recognized, Nathan, as an Auburn man after a win over Vanderbilt. That would That would be fitting.
Absolutely. Just that's a referendum on the year 2026, I think.
Well, Nathan, listen, always great to catch up with you. So happy that SEC Football Media Days is less than 2 weeks away, and then camp will be starting right after that. You can follow Nathan and Jason Caldwell, Christian Clemente, all the great people there at Auburn Undercover, part of the 247 Network. Nathan, always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Nathan.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all. Talk to y'all later.
Thank you so much. That is Nathan King. Joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
Some of the things, the takeaways, what Nathan just told us, your text as well. Three-Man Front continues on this Wednesday.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I will always have a complicated relationship with this game, but people evolve. So do sports. Do not make me regret this. Do not make me devolve back to that guy that so many clones wish that I still was. And do not embarrass the entire country. Now, I can go back. I can get there fast. Lose tonight, and you got a real problem. Do not blow it.
The Jim Rome Show podcast.
You've been warned.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.